What's going on, everybody? You're watching another episode of the Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy. I'm Mike Nicastro. This is my guy, Jordan York. Of course, follow us on Twitter at Mic'd Up Sports One and at Jordan York Music. JY, what's up? You got the Steelers hat on. Obviously, we got a game in 2 days, a relatively important game, maybe. Now that we, of course, beat the, that win against the Colts on Monday. How are you doing? I'm sure you're pumped and ready for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm just I have a toy drive this weekend, and then we're gonna do just being a dad. And my brother's birthday is today, so happy birthday to Jake if you're listening. And yeah, man, I just tweeted that the Steelers are probably going to win out because that's what Mike Tomlin does, and that's what they do. He gets you on the edge of your seats. Everyone's bickering back and forth, and then before you know it, the Steelers are going for a wild card or the AFC North. I've seen crazier things happen. You know, I'm not saying that I'm a full believer, but it's definitely not impossible.
Yeah, speaking of bickering, you're probably going to get a lot of bickering under that tweet because that is a hot, bold take for a 4-7 football team. Anyway, we're excited. Hopefully we don't have any bickering today because even though he is a Browns guru, he is part of the Sick Podcast team, which of course takes precedent overall. So we're really excited to welcome in Andy McNamara of the Sick Podcast. Whenever we come back, Sammy, go ahead and run it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Flacco, Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome back. We're excited. Let's go ahead and bring him in. A Steelers-Browns mashup. It must be Friday. Everybody's in a good mood today. Andy, thanks for joining us, man. What's going on?
Hey guys, great to be on with you. Yes, it's we're all under the Sick Podcast family, so we can all get along. It's all good. And listen, if there's one thing Browns and Steelers fans can have in common, we all hate the Ravens. They're the worst. So
yeah,
that's fine.
That is easy to agree on over here for sure. Yeah, we're excited you're joining us. Obviously, going to let you talk a little bit about your podcast shortly. But first, we want to get into some big stuff, right, Jordan? Maybe the news of the week.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Browns coming off a win, and obviously Deshaun Watson's coming back. Just kind of talk about like what's going on in Browns land right now, and kind of the feel going into the rest of the season. And what is the goal for this season?
Well, it's really starting right now. It's been waiting for Deshaun Watson to come back, right? And it's been waiting for this $230 million guaranteed quarterback who's put the fan base, ownership, and everybody else in a position where it's kind of tough to act excited outwardly. You know, it's in a spot. It's very strange because talent-wise, Deshaun Watson, when he's on his game, you put him right up there with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, that type of elite talent. So I'm excited to see him play. But obviously, there's all the surrounding stuff with it. So really, the whole point of this season was, once we knew the length of suspension, was, okay, get to when Deshaun returns in still a spot to be able to make the playoffs. Now, the Browns had 2, maybe 3 games you should have won. And it was in-game adjustments or lack thereof, and just no accountability on poor plays. Essentially shooting yourself in the foot. They have the talent. They should have beat the Jets. That's a debacle. Falcons should have beat them, who the Steelers are playing this week. And also the Chargers. Yeah, that game too. But they beat Tampa Tom. They beat old Brady. And now you're in a big week against the Houston Texans. Deshaun's. By the way, you think the NFL, all this, we want to be good for the people. You think it's by accident that it's against Houston? No, come on. BS. It's
I didn't just miraculously fall from the sky. That was obviously
wonderful.
Planned.
I know. It's ridiculous. But now,
from a fan's perspective, I guess it's everything you want. I mean, more storyline, it leading up to the game, and
Texans suck, so that helps.
Yeah, it's like here's their
Careful
Super
what you wish
Bowl.
for.
Yeah, hey, you know what? I was saying on my show today, guys, that the Browns have to withstand the first quarter because there's going to be a lot of emotion. Now, a lot of the players, there's been a total overhaul, so players on the team aren't really there, but it's the fans. I think it's going to be energetic, loud. So the Browns have to withstand that initial emotion. And if you can get up by a couple scores, then you can break the spirits. They're 1-9-1. You break them out of their hype, and then they're done. But you have to do that.
How has Deshaun looked in practice thus far? Obviously, every tweet is circulated around him missing a throw or going through Amari Cooper's hands, like we saw recently. But from what you're hearing, how caught up is he? He's only been in the facility for a few weeks.
Well, according to everything, throwing against air, he looks great. But we heard the same thing in training camp. Looks great. You see all the throws, and the thing is too, just when you're like, man, is this all worth it? Then you just see him flick the wrist and it goes like 50 yards. You're like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Okay. So the problem was in training camp, looked the same, looked good. Then the preseason game happened. Preseason, say what you're not doing the full offense, yada yada.
Sure.
He looked bad, but also what people forget is he did look bad. But the Browns starting center Nick Harris went out and was lost for the season on the second play of the game. So now you have a guy who hasn't played in a regular season game at that point for X number of days. Then you lose your starting center, and that's all caught up. Now we fast forward here, and he will not have played in a regular season game, guys, in 700 days.
Crazy.
So I think we have to temper expectations as far as Deshaun Watson going and totally balling out. And hopefully Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski keeps it simplified, and don't forget about Nick Chubb.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we've seen quarterbacks heading to new teams this season and really struggling. Russell Wilson, a classic example of that.
Let's
no
ride.
question about it.
What a joke.
Let's ride. Yeah, where are you riding? Right to the 4-13 potential.
He's riding to the bank to cash those guaranteed checks. That's what he's doing. That's what he's riding.
I don't think he's. I think he'll be okay ultimately at the end of the day, regardless of what happens there.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the AFC North and the outlook. Not just this year, but moving forward. I'll start with this year because obviously you get that win against Tom Brady. I feel like all hope is lost if you go to 3-8. You're not in contention, but you guys get Deshaun Watson back. You feel like you have a genuine shot at kind of getting to 9-8-ish and being in the mix?
I do. 9-8, I think, gets you in the mix. But then you got to worry about all those tiebreakers. Really, if you win out at 10-7, but again, how realistic is that? Considering you're going with Deshaun Watson, who, guys, again, I can't say this enough, 700 days. Like, what do you expect? And I don't think they're going to win out. So 9-8 might keep you in the conversation, but then we look at it. Okay, where the wild card picture overall? I'm looking here. So Miami, the Jets, I still think the Jets are fake, but Miami's getting in. Nobody from the AFC South outside of the Titans. AFC West, maybe the Chargers. So you have like an outside chance at a wild card. But to win the division, okay, you get to 9-8. Well, that means that the Ravens and Bengals can only win 2 more games, depending on tiebreakers, of course, right? So is 9-8 going to be enough? Is 10-7? You have to sweep the division. You got to beat the Steelers again end of the year, and you have to beat the Bengals, and you got to beat the Ravens. So those are 3 right there after that Texans game this week. It doesn't get much easier.
I think things are going to open up a little bit. You made a good point about the Jets. They still have the Vikings next week. The AFC East is going to beat up on each other a little bit more. Bills, Jets, Patriots, obviously. That division right now is arguably the best division in the NFL.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? I know, absolutely. Yeah. So before I send it back to my boy JY, I want you to rank the AFC North quarterbacks for me moving forward. Give me the 5-year projection. I think it's a really interesting conversation. We're gonna say Lamar stays in Baltimore in this exercise.
Okay, I'll say. Okay, so over 5 years, interesting. Yeah. I think over 5 years, I think you got to go to Deshaun Watson number 1 based on past talent, and that's not being a homer. Based on the investment that they've made in him and the talent that we've seen. He better.
You would hope. Yeah.
Texans got all the draft picks, right? They got first round all over. So it better be Deshaun Watson. I think Joe Burrow is right there second. Now, has he been and the Bengals been figured out a little bit? Yes. But I still think you have the surrounding weapons, and certainly he has the arm talent to do it. Steelers are a bit of an unknown, right? Because is it Kenny Pickett? Is it going to be eventually somebody else? Like, I don't think it's, from my viewpoint, I don't think it's safe to crown Kenny Pickett as the next 10-year starter of the Steelers. We'll have to see how he develops. And then you have Lamar Jackson. So I guess I have to put Lamar Jackson 3 and then Pittsburgh with a question mark as far as what does that mean? Just because we haven't really seen, I don't think, enough of Kenny Pickett to crown or say he's a bum,
Especially when going up against those 3. Sure.
Yeah,
exactly. And I still think, guys, I'll tell you this. I think Lamar Jackson is still not as good as everyone hypes him up to be.
He's too wishy-washy.
I just don't. Listen, if a defensive coordinator strategy still to this point is to make you throw the football, you're not a franchise quarterback. Sure, he can run. You can put all the flash and dash. I don't care about those. The fact is, guess who has the same amount of playoff wins as Lamar Jackson? Baker Mayfield. So get to a Super Bowl, Lamar. Then we'll
Did they
talk.
build the Baker Mayfield statue in Cleveland yet?
Oh, not yet. I got my Funko Baker. I got too much Baker stuff. That's a problem. I got too much Baker stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I got the signed rookie card back there. I love Bake.
Hey, I mean, I respect him. He has heart. I'll give him that. I mean, I don't think he's Johnny Unitas, but he's definitely what he did to Cleveland. I mean, he kind of, in the way that his exit, I mean, I was hoping that, his homecoming was spoiled as well. So, but that's just like Baker Mayfield. So
I think he got hosed personally, but that's a different story. But I don't think Lamar Jackson. Look, us Browns fans and Steelers fans, I think we should hope that the Ravens give him all the money, all of it, make it $300 million, because you are then going to tie up a significant chunk of your future in a quarterback who we already been seeing the decline from an injury standpoint. Still can't throw the effective football. Still can't do it when it counts. You can flash all the stats you want. I don't buy it, and I'm going to continue to not buy it.
And the Steelers, Jordan, have generally dominated Lamar, at least fared really well against him.
TJ Watt, go at him.
Chris Wormley, especially because that's his former team.
Yeah, the thing is, I still feel, and look, the guy's obviously athletically talented.
I mean, yeah, he's but being that, like, there's a lot of people, like, not to throw it back, but like Cordell, like, I feel like if he would have been Slash and really owned it instead of just trying to be a quarterback, I think that when you know your strengths and weaknesses, everyone is human beings. We know that, but sometimes ego and stubbornness gets in the way, and they're like, well, I can do this on offense. My arm's strong enough, but when it comes down to it, you get hurt. You're out for 8 games every year. You're rusty. It's crazy.
No, I'll tell you this, guys, too. I think current quarterbacks with better arm talent and who are going to end up being better than Lamar Jackson, I think Jalen Hurts, and I've been on Jalen Hurts before he got drafted. I think that guy's arm talent,
Justin
and passer, underrated still. Jalen Hurts, and I think Justin Fields now under this new thing can do better than Lamar Jackson.
Could have been a Steeler, Jalen Hurts. A lot of people had him pegged to kind of be the
study
behind Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. So
love him.
Before we get you out of here, Andy, we kind of already talked about the Deshaun Watson, the Texans earlier. Obviously, the NFL did their homework on that to set that up. But just kind of talk about what do you think the Browns will finish the year this year at?
I feel
in the AFC North.
Well, knowing that the Browns will inevitably crush my spirit and hopes, I think they'll be just good enough to almost get there and then lose out on a tiebreaker. That's how I feel, just to hurt me inside, as they usually do. So I think 9-8. Like, okay, if I'm being real, like,
would you be? You would be real happy with 9-8.
I'd be happy with it. If I'm being super real with you guys, I think probably 8-9. I think that's if I'm taking the fan
being
out,
realistic. Yeah.
I'm thinking that what I want to see is playoffs and a Super Bowl run this year. Realistic? No. But what I want to see is Deshaun Watson to get better and take on more of the playbook each week. If I can see that and we finish super strong and you're like, okay, he's clicking, the rust is off, we're feeling good, then I can go into the offseason thinking, okay, now let's refocus, build around him as best you can with no first round freaking draft picks, and get going from there. So that's kind of more what I want to see. Take those steady steps and then move on.
What we want to see is more Browns-Steelers mashups right here on the Sick Podcast. That's Andy McNamara, of course. He's talking all things Browns at Andy Mac 81, part of the Sick Podcast family. Really excited to have you on, and looking forward to doing it again, Andy.
And that's what's nice, guys. Is we can talk AFC North football all year. So it's great. The draft is not that I'm already looking forward to the draft, but it is the most wonderful time of the year rather than December. So
unless you're the Browns right now and you don't have draft picks.
I got no picks. Look, I got the draft day, the Kevin Costner draft day coaster. I love that movie. I watch it every year in draft. I need Sonny Weaver Jr. to get my draft pick back. It's gonna be David Putney.
In the great words of Les Snead, F them picks. If you're winning, who cares? We're always winning here on the Sick Podcast. Andy, see you, man.
All right, boys.
Thank
See ya.
you. Yeah, good stuff. I never thought that I could get along with a Browns fan, and here we are. Part of the sick team. So.
I think the same way that we are continuing to have faith in the Steelers, he has a lot of faith in the Browns. I think 9-8 is probably a little bit optimistic, but at the same time, you just tweeted the Steelers will win out. So you never know. I mean, Deshaun Watson back
is my tweet that far-fetched? Like everyone, like you have to like realize something is like we went when we were undefeated, look at how that season ended. So everyone thought, whoa, we're undefeated, we're winning the Super Bowl. Like we weren't even close. It just a lot of things fell. I feel like this year, like I don't want to say Tomlin, even if he feels the pressure to win, I feel like he's not gonna at his pressers, he's not gonna show us that. He might be thinking it, but he's never going to show. And I think that that's a tactic that he's always used. He's just cool, calm, and collective. Hey, I don't care if we're one game at a time mentality. So I just think
that would have them finishing 10-7, and they would definitely make the playoffs. In your
and
world,
people don't want him to. Like
8-9.
I was just talking to my dad and a few other people the other day, and they're like, I just want a top 5 draft pick. We can get Joey Porter Jr. We can do that. I'm like, well, we'll see.
Yep. That was
I don't ever root to lose.
Yeah, well, of course not. But I think that's a bit of a crazy prediction, even though we're here on Steelers Crazy.
Well, that's the whole point. You bring the hard hitting analytics. I bring the hot takes. Hey, I did pick the Steelers to beat the Bengals. We watched that game together at Jimmy's. You remember?
Yeah,
so
week 1.
They can call me crazy, and I said it by the skin of my teeth.
All right, before we sign off here, what was your Falcons prediction? You said they'll win. Do you have a score?
Oh, I'm going to go maybe, let's go 27-14.
So you like a lot of points. Matt Canada's been doing a better job. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit better job. Kenny Pickett has picked it up.
The running game gets going early. That's the biggest thing. Kenny is this is another thing where I thought about going on a rant, but the whole Kenny Pickett thing, man, is like I was like listening to some like local radio, and there's people like comparing him to like Joe Montana. I'm like, this kid did not even play a full season. Can he just be Kenny Pickett? He hasn't had any turnovers. Like it's like everyone wants to compare these young quarterbacks when they come in the league. And I'm like, can they play 6 games, 8 games before we analyze their whole, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, just sit back and, watch. I mean, I know a lot of these people are armchair quarterbacks, but just hold on to the remote and just do what you do, because it's just let the kid play.
Let him play. I'm going to go 23-17. I like a 6-point win. I think the Steelers keep up the momentum and then have a really interesting game at home. 5-7 against Baltimore coming to Acrisure Stadium after that.
Chris Wormley's going to have 3 sacks.
4-8.
That's not far-fetched because TJ Watt stole the one. I was there.
Yeah, he did it last year almost. Yeah. Well, we want to show something really quick. Speaking of Chris Wormley, we're very happy to collaborate once more with Cafe Note. We're going to bring the Chris Wormley and Friends show live in person. You guys watch it here every Tuesday as part of the Sick Podcast. We'll live stream it as well here on the Sick Podcast, Steelers Crazy. But if you are in Pittsburgh, and we think most of our listeners are in Pittsburgh, come on out, check out Jordan, check out Chris. We're going to have so many fun things, an interview, Q&A session. He'll autograph some things for you. We're also going to raffle off some Steelers memorabilia. You can get maybe an autographed jersey or a football, maybe some George Pickens in there as well. We had a great time last year, Jordan. It should be a great time again.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good just talking Steeler football. And, when you can, Worm is just such a good guy. And we really did, there was great food, and we were able to raise money for Cuddles for Kids. So at the end of the day, I'd say this all the time, but we'll end on this. Like, we do this for Steeler Nation. This is an extensive, we're media, but we're not. We're just 2 guys who are passionate. And, Mike brings the hard-hitting analytics, and whatever I bring, the craziness, I guess you can say, is that's why
Good way to
we
put
are.
it.
That's why we are Steelers crazy, and we appreciate you. And this has really just been a fun ride, but it's been riding with you. So, hey, Sammy, I'm JY. This is Mike. Let's ride another victory this Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. The Dirty Birds, you're going down on Steelers Crazy, a sick media production. We'll see you Tuesday, as always, for the Chris Wormley and Friends show. Give us a follow. We have a bunch of cool things going on. Just stick around, subscribe, do all that good shit. Oh, Sammy, run it.
You're right.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.